Hi guys, we're going to try an easier way to make these Frankenfaces that will hopefully not shut down Google Slides, especially when you're trying to work on it and or upload your homework. So first thing we're going to do is open all three of your views, your front, side, and three-quarter view of your self-portrait in Pixlr E. And I just did that with File, Open, 3 times for the different views. 1 for each different view. Oh, we're off to a great start here. Okay, so you've got these 3 different views, and you need to decide which is going to be your base layer, the one upon which you place the features to create your Frankenface. I'm going to make the three-quarter view my base layer. But what I've got to do, I just can't copy and paste it. I've got to go to File, Save, and then I'm going to rename it. It's important that you rename it. And I'm going to call it Frankenbase. I'm just going to let it choose the settings that it wants to choose, and I'm going to hit Download. Then I'm going to open that file that I just created, Frankenbase. I've got a bunch of them. There we go. Okay, so yes, it is the same as my three-quarter view, but I need that one independent so that I can place features from these on it. Okay, as you know, this is the way you can scroll through your different views, which is very convenient, a little more so than Google Slides. Also, what's a little bit easier is that you can go through and harvest pieces from your different images much more simply. You can go to the Marquee Select tool, this little marquee box, and then you can just drag your marquee around the thing that you want to copy. Once you've got your marquee and your part selected, you go to Edit, Copy, and then go over to your base layer, Edit, Paste. Okay, now, in order to move that around and adjust it, you're going to need to go up here to the Arrange tool. Looks like an arrow point. And you'll see that activates the little control boxes on your actual image. So if you want to enlarge or reduce or rotate in any way, you can do that pretty easily. But you must remember, once you paste it, that you need to go up and grab that Arrange tool, because you will be by default still on the Marquee tool, which will not allow you to do any kind of manipulation on it. Okay, now, one thing that's different about Pixlr than on Google Slides is that if you want to make a mirror image, or you want to flip or crop this individual piece, which is now its own layer. If you look over in your list on the right side, you'll notice that it has become its own separate layer. Every new piece that we put on here is going to be its own new layer. So in order to modify an individual layer, that is, copy it, flip it, distort it somehow, mirror it, what you need to do is make that the active layer. You can see that's active right now, and it's the highlighted layer in my set. What I need to do is go to Edit, Transform, or Free Transform. if you want to cut it down and distort it. Pause 1 second. What I do need to first do is copy that layer. And then I'm going to paste that layer. And there we go. Now we have our copy so we can do things to it. Now there I'm going to go back to transform. And in this case, I just want to flip it over and make its mirror opposite. So I'm going to go over and flip horizontal so I can get that layer going. So I can start looking real fine. Isn't that pretty? Oof. Okay, now let's go harvest something else. Let's grab my teeth again. So I still have this marquee active. I don't want that. I'm just going to right click and deselect it. But then I'm going to grab the marquee tool again. And I'm going to select my chin. Edit, copy, go back to my base layer, edit, paste, and there it is. And you will probably do what I just did. In being anxious to move it around, you'll forget to go back and grab the arrange tool. So I accidentally made a selection. I'm going to deselect that. You can either go to select, deselect, or you can right click on that box that showed up and hit deselect. So now I'm going to grab the arrange tool. Now I can move it around. You know, I'd really rather have this chin facing the other direction. So I don't want two of them. I just want to flip this one. So I don't need a mirror copy of it. I just need to mirror it. So I'm going to go to edit, transform, flip horizontal. And there it is. And we can tweak it a little bit and make it cute. Isn't that cute? No, it's not cute. That's okay. All right, I'm going to harvest one more piece. Poor front view is not getting much action here. Let's harvest my ear from this one. So I'm going to go up, grab that marquee tool again, harvest this ear, edit, copy, back to my base layer, edit, paste. Need to grab that arrange tool to move it. And that's kind of interesting, but I want to put it a little closer to the normal orientation. So again, I'm going to go up to edit, transform, flip horizontal. And then I can stretch, rotate, stretch. All right, that scale looks good, but as you can see, I accidentally, well, not accidentally, but I covered up my eye. So I want to bring the layer of my eye forward. In order to do that, several ways. You want to click on it, and you can just go over to the layer list over here on your right side, and you can either click and drag on it to change its orientation, or you can use these arrows, and it's going to move whichever layer you have active, and you can just click on the different layers here to activate them, and then these up and down arrows will move it forward or backward along the list. Okay. Now those of you with some savvy Photoshop skills, I've had a few questions about cutting out contour edges rather than just having square photos. And you can do that with the Cutout tool. This gives you a lot more flexibility in cutting right along the edge of something. And frankly, I'd like to kind of have that trimmed up so we don't see this part and that part. But I'm going to let those of you who are a little more comfortable explore that if you want to. I do want to show you also how to do the drop shadows. So in this case, it's at least as easy, if not easier, than in Google Slides. So all we've got to do is activate the layer that we want to put the drop shadow on, and we go up to Filter, Drop Shadow. How about that? And it's got similar controls. Again, I'm going to recommend that you drop your shadows down and to the left or right, and keep that consistent so that it looks like the light source really is coming from a specific angle. If you mix that up too much, it starts to get a little unbelievable. It no longer looks like shadows if you've changed the angle among your different pieces. So we'll apply that. We'll do one here. Again, as I'm doing the drop shadow, I'm trying to be fairly consistent with how large they are. And you can use those numbers, the pixel count, to try to be consistent. Make sure the opacity is low enough that you can still see the texture and detail on the images below the different layers. Apply. Let's do two more real quick. And we'll do this one, filter, drop shadow. Okay. Now this guy, I'd like him to be a little more centered. So let's see. We go to this, very important step that I forgot to tell you right off the bat. In the written instructions, it's right there at the top of the list. But on your background layer, you're going to notice there's a lock. And we're going to want to right-click on that layer, and it's going to bring up some options that we can control. And we're going to want to go from locked to unlock. So you unlock that layer, and now you can mess around with it. I was trying to move the head over a little bit, and it wasn't letting me because that layer was locked. So now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to move it slightly. And then I'll just kind of readjust these layers as well. They don't need a whole lot of adjustment. All right. Now we're going to put a background on it. And the background is pretty cool and not real hard to do. And you have a lot more options in Pixlr with your backgrounds. But what you need to do first is go to Layer, New Layer. And it is upon that new layer that we're going to put your gradient background. So we're on a new layer now, right up there. And we're going to go over and click the Gradient tool. Now the Gradient tool gives you several different options, linear and radial. You probably remember what those do from Google Slides. You have so much control over this that whatever you choose really doesn't make a difference, not much of a difference, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. You click on the color swatch for the gradient, and you'll see you have all kinds of options. I'm going to first just select one of these black and white backgrounds. And once you select your color, you can, there's an infinite number of things you can do. You can go with one of these pre-made swatches, or you can select the color that you want. I'm just going to go with one of these pre-mades. Okay. Now I've got one selected. Now I'm going to go over here and click back on my work. And then you're going to click and drag and release to get your background. And wherever you start your click and drag, that's going to be that's going to determine the start and stop point of your fade. You can see what I'm doing. It's difficult for me to describe. Okay. Let's see, what do I want? Let's go with something like this. Okay. Now, as you can see, it covered up my entire face. So what I need to do is move this layer back down behind all the other layers. So we're going to put it at the very bottom. Oh, it didn't let me. So I'm going to click all the way down. There we go. While we're still on that background gradient layer, you can try some other of these. Just experiment a little bit. Yeah, once you select one, then you click on the work and drag yourself a little gradient. Just know your first click is going to be the starting point. As you see the transfer of color or the fade transition from one color to the next, your first click will indicate where this color is going to start, and your next click, your end click, is going to be the color at the end of that swatch. So you're probably figuring that out. If you want it to start right in the center behind your head, just start there. I'm going to go with that. Okay, final thing. I like to put a frame on it. You know that. So I'm going to filter outer glow. Nope, inner glow. And inner glow is probably going to default to white. And you see it put that little white border, which I'm growing right now. That white doesn't look too bad. But I prefer a black border. I'm going to go way down here. Get a black border. Okay, what I really don't like is to have the edge feathered and faded. I think it just looks out of focus. So I'm going to take the feathered edge down to 0. That's certainly a personal preference thing, but I think it really gives it a nice finished look. You can see the before and after here with the compare button. I'm going to apply that. Now, what I really don't like is that my neck is extending off the bottom of the frame. So I'm going to go back to my background image, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. And I'm going to line up the edge of my head right there at the bottom. Now this might mean realigning some things here. Maybe making them a little smaller. You get the drill. All right. Final step is to file, save, let it determine the file type and the quality. It'll do a good job. And then make sure it's named something that you can find. And then download it. Once you download it, it's a simple process to insert that into the slideshow where we will celebrate and savor your hard work. Good job, guys.